Thank you, Byron. I'm Evan, and I'm going to talk about how much joy the natural world has given me. So it's really my story of my exposure to nature. Before I talk about that story, I wanted to ask you all a question, or three questions. So please raise your hands, either physically, or if you're not sharing your video, you can, I think there's a emoji hand raise that you can use. So please raise your hand as I ask these three questions. So number one, do you celebrate your birthday? Okay, mostly hands up. Well, I see Joe disagreeing. Okay, do you celebrate any festival, Christmas, Hari Raya, Diwali, Chinese New Year, every year? Do you celebrate one of those, one or more? Okay, that's nearly everybody. And lastly, do you celebrate to the same degree as you celebrate those, either the festivals or your birthday, something to do with nature every year? Do you mark it in the calendar? And do you celebrate it with others and make a regular thing of it? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I will return to this question at the end, but this is very important for my takeaway messages. Okay, my nature story began quite inauspiciously, really. Up to the age of 17, I grew up in London, in a town, suburban town, and had very little exposure to nature. I fitted in, I was at school, I did sports, but I let the natural world pass me by, really. And that changed the first time I got on a plane. My parents flew us to Canada. We were going to go and do 2 weeks of whale watching. We'd never done anything like this before. And we got down to the dock and the jetty, and the captain of this boat came out, very smart looking, and he gave us a safety briefing and then said, right, now we're going to go and find orcas before sunset. And I looked at my parents and my sisters, and we exchanged this glance of, we've never heard a sentence like that before in our lives. That's, that's new. And turned out that it was a sentence that changed me, because we did see orcas before sunset. And just to tell you a little bit about orca, they are magnificent animals. They can grow to about 10 meters long. They weigh several tons. Their fin, the dorsal fin there on the top, can be as big as a fully grown man, but yet they have this agility, dolphin-like agility. So you're seeing this thing the size of a small bus jumping around in the water, and absolutely magnificent. And this experience completely changed my life. Like, I just wanted to see more of it, see more of nature. And so I spent most of those 2 weeks pestering everybody that I could find about how I could come back the following summer. And I found a community of volunteers who came out every summer to study these whales by listening to their calls under the water through a network of underwater microphones. And I had to sleep in this tent that you see here in the top left of your screens. There was no internet, no Wi-Fi, no shops. It was me and about 6 other volunteers, and we just worked researching the whales by day, watching the shooting stars at night, and the air was so fresh. It was like pure oxygen from this temperate rainforest that we were living in. And the silence as well, there's so much silence, and you can hear everything. Every animal you hear just completely without any noise pollution. We also had to live, so we had to catch our own fish. And now this is a really good way of getting connected to nature when you have to kill your first fish. It's quite different from picking up a tin of fish from the supermarket. You have to get a big stick or something to smack it over the head with as it's wriggling about, and it doesn't feel very good until you put it on the bonfire later and have a really nice, tasty, fresh fish. But it really helps you connect with the natural world. And as I said before, up until the age of 16, 17, I did not have this connection. So I did this for a few years. I kept doing different projects with whales and dolphins in Europe and Canada. But I was a little naive and I wasn't earning any money, and that kind of dawned on me in my early 20s that I couldn't go on doing this forever. And like a lot of us, we end up back in the city to find work. I returned to London, and it's fair to say I was a little bit despondent at first because there were no orcas before sunset anymore. But something quite strange happened, because I actually very slowly began to notice smaller bits of nature and realize that nature is everywhere. It's part of us. We've evolved on this planet for thousands and thousands of years, and only a tiny part of that has been in an industrialized society. So all of our instincts are to do with living in nature, and we've got to tap into those things. And it was about finding very small things like the first blackberries that would fruit usually in August, or the first signs of spring, the first flowers that came out to bloom, or the few birds that you might hear singing in the morning. And I decided to share this. So as part of my job, I was working in sustainability at this point. I took students and staff at a university out for these bird walks. And it was really interesting because we wouldn't tend to spot very much. You can see here in this photo, everyone was very happy. And a lot of people, all the feedback was the same. They said they would take their headphones off, stop looking at their phones when they walked in, and start looking and appreciating the nature around them. They said they'd walked this route for years and they'd never noticed all this stuff going on, and kind of opened up their eyes to being part of nature. And it kind of contradicts, this is kind of contradicted in the world I see today, particularly on social media. So I like my experiments, and I did a bit of research before this speech. I had this thing about Instagram. I use Instagram, and I'm all for the use of social media tools, but this is one of my irritations. I searched the hashtag Niagara Falls, one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. And well, it wasn't really to my surprise, but there was only 2 photos of the waterfall in the most popular 15 photos of Niagara Falls. And some kind of strange, I mean, one of them is a wedding with the waterfall in a building with no sign of the waterfall at all. So I don't know why this is so popular. One of them seems to show a very large planet about to hit a building. Anyway, my point is, we're very people-centric in what we do. Another example, whenever I go on holiday, I do a hashtag of the place I'm going, because I like to, I'm going to a place with nice mountains, nice coastline, maybe I can get a good idea of some nice places to go. I hashtag Langkawi, and I realized I was going to see a lot of people taking selfies on my holiday. Now, this is my Instagram, and I think I'm on a one-man mission at the moment to have a selfie-free Instagram page. Not that there's anything wrong with selfies, but this stuff is so much more interesting. I'm not that interesting. I don't think anyone is that interesting compared to dolphins, landscapes, otters, whatever we might find out there, and give some information on that thing that you're seeing, rather than this kind of really easy, look at me, I'm going to get lots of likes for a photo of me next to a beach. And that concerns me because, we're seeing more and more social media, and I think it's going away from our natural instincts a little bit. Okay, well, that was all my interest in nature. I find it gives me peace, curiosity, wonder, patience. Now, I've done a lot of work with birds, and sometimes you have to wait for them to come out of their nest to prove that they're breeding for a development project that I might be working on. You can wait 6 hours in the pouring rain, nothing to do, but that feeling when the bird finally comes out is fantastic. But nature also helps literally with medical conditions. There is a huge amount of scientific papers out there which show that all of these ailments, mental, physical ailments, are reduced in severity by connecting with nature. I'm only going to focus on one, which is dementia, which the UN have come out and said is going to be one of the major challenges of the 21st century. Aging populations, dementia, there's going to be a huge number of people that have it. And there's scientific papers out there that show dementia is significantly reduced if older people have green spaces that they can access easily. And even things like busy main roads that are difficult to cross tend to be enough to mitigate that benefit. So if people don't want to leave the house because their green space involves walking through a busy area or something, then they're less likely to do it. So we all need to be encouraging this. We all need to advocate green spaces and make sure we spend as much time outside as we can. Okay, what can we do? Well, we've got to go and get wild. I'm really, really pleased that so many people have been interested in the wildflower meadows that have sprung up in Singapore since the circuit breaker started. Less grass cutting, and the wildflowers have bloomed, and following them are the butterflies and the dragonflies and insects. And there's photos galore on Facebook, Nature Society at the moment of that. And it just shows, going back to that nature part, nature in the city part, that you only need very small things to capture people's attention. And secondly, we need to educate positively. Too often we only hear about nature when there's an oil spill or a rainforest has burnt down, or there's bushfires in Australia. We need to share the positive stuff, celebrate nature, celebrate the seasons, celebrate amazing natural spectacles that happen all the time. And we can all do that via things like social media too, and try and push those selfies down the popularity list. Okay, well, I'm going to leave you with this. I asked at the beginning about celebrations. I think about half of you celebrate your birthdays. There was probably a correlation with age, and those people who put their hands up there. I think nearly everyone celebrates a festival, or more than one festival, and very few people celebrated nature. I did notice that a few people put their hands up. So what can we celebrate? Well, I've put 12 examples here from the last 12 months. We can celebrate World Environment Day, astronomical events. We had this amazing eclipse in Singapore late in 2019. The nesting season for birds, the monsoon, when the trumpet trees bloom in the roads in Singapore, it's absolutely beautiful. That should be headline news. We should all be going out and watching that and appreciating that, not just talking about the negative stuff. My final remark really to you guys is I lost 16 years of my life not celebrating all this stuff, getting no joy from all these beautiful things. I'm really worried that there's too many people that go through their whole lives without celebrating it at all or even noticing it. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions if there's time, but if there's not, you can contact me and talk about any of these things. I'm happy to follow up offline. Please celebrate nature and enjoy getting back out there on Friday. Thank you very much.